that I've been involved in since I've been on the commission. This is a major, major change. So again, I'm willing to go along with this, and the 700,000 sounds good this year, but I'm going to deal with a little bit of reality and figure that's going to be cut back year to year as attrition and appreciation. Agree with Commissioner Rue and Dr. Estrop. We're probably as close today as we've ever been. But again, I wish we had some input with regards to the day-to-day, if we weren't happy with something, because we're going to get frustrated at some point. And I just hope this committee that we're putting together is going to be able to deal with it, because it's awfully, awfully important to the people of Springfield, to the police, to the fire, to people who depend on this so, so much. Because it's a service that we, quote, are technically turning over to a contract. But Bryan, I do appreciate all the work you've done on this and all the staff, because we've
Mr. Rue, you had another comment?
To get to this point. So, nobody will ever say that it didn't go back and forth and back and forth and back for a decade. So this wasn't a quick decision if you look at it that way. So, and I don't think there's a commissioner on this stage that'll vote one way or the other, doesn't care about the professionalism and the expertise of our 911 dispatch. And we want to see that for the entire community, county, city, all the above. So I want to make that comment.
I just want to make clear that I have many of the concerns of Commissioner O'Neill, and the two of us have been involved throughout this process. But we'll see where we go from here. Anybody else now? Anyone in the audience want to speak to this matter? Anyone who wants to speak should go to a microphone, and we need your name and address for the record.
Andrew Rigsby, Springfield Professional Firefighters, Local 333, President, 2101 Harshman Boulevard, Springfield, Ohio, 45504. Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, Senior Staff. First, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our City Manager for being so forthcoming with information, keeping us up to speed with this process. I am truly thankful for that, and I can honestly say I feel the information flow has been very good. I'd also like to say we are extremely happy that ultimately our brother and sister dispatchers have been taken care of in a pretty decent manner. I think that comes down to the successful nature of negotiations in the state of Ohio. I will say, however, we are still concerned. Not that we think that there's anything underhanded, not that we think that this is some kind of backdoor dealing, because I don't believe that it is. But we are concerned. I understand there are protections in place. The national standards, the board, the dispute resolution procedure, all make me feel at least somewhat more comfortable. However, we currently operate under those same national standards, the same revised code that we will. I share what you said, Dr. Estrop. I want to make sure that what we're doing is moving forward, not moving sideways or backward. Moving the center just to move it, it doesn't seem to make sense to me. If there's a true cost savings and we're going to truly have better service, I think that remains to be seen. The $700,000 savings, I would wonder if maybe that wasn't as a result of the decreased call volume due to COVID-19 that we saw in the first quarter of this year. Our call volume will be down, but if you'll watch, we're on track to do, if you discount the first quarter, the same volume that we did last year, the the volume that was slightly higher than the year before, and my suspicion would be our volume next year will be as high or higher than it typically is, which means that that $700,000 could evaporate just like that in the blink of an eye. That's not to say that it's not worth doing. It's not to say that I'm rising in opposition severely. I'm just concerned. I want to make sure that my members are safe, that my brother police officers are safe, that our citizens are safe. That's the whole thing. My main concern, I share with Commissioner O'Neill, which is really something I don't say often, but it's true, right? That we have a duty to the citizens. We have a duty to our police and firefighters. We have a duty to our paramedics to make sure that the service we deliver, I think one of the primary functions of government is to provide for the public safety. I'm not saying that the sheriff's dispatch will be out of their way to make us unsafe. What I'm saying is removing something from our sphere of control has the potential to make changes occur slower. And sometimes that's not a good thing. So all that being said, I just want you to know we're watching this. We're concerned about it. I would hope that we are very careful in our decision making. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Dee Lowe, 401 Longview Avenue. I'm an evening supervisor for the City 911 Center. I've been here just shy of 10 years. First, I'd like to appreciate all of the time you all have invested in this. I know there's been a lot of paperwork, a lot of meetings, and I appreciate that. I would also like to commend the county. They made great strides. They had to reach out to get the MOU. They've increased their pay scale 12% to get up to the level where we're at. They have agreed to allow city dispatchers 1-for-1 for our years of service. However, there's still 3 city employees that are going to be making less on the hour. 5 of the 20 employees will be making less overall. That's 20%, 25%. The city agrees to this contract, and they're already compromising on the requirements that they put in place on the MOU. We brought up cohabitation of the dispatch several times. County has stated we will not do that. Major Clark has stated it would be too cumbersome for him to have 2 centers in the same facility. However, he's prepared to manage the entire dispatch center. The county will have complete control over how your dispatch center is ran. The city will give up their oversight. Yes, there will be a committee. There will actually be a committee within county, which the county seats that committee to decide if an issue needs to be brought up and resolved. I've been told this is not about money. It's about improving efficiency, streamlining dispatch. Use state-of-the-art equipment in a state-of-the-art facility. And that sounds great. But I know most of you have never been in a dispatch center, so I wanted to give you a little bit of insight. For instance, the sheriff has stated to our city officers that nothing will change for them in dispatch. Everything will remain the same. Our city officers and the county deputies use code. With that in mind, a code for the county is requesting an ambulance. That same code is requesting to check someone for warrants in the city. So for lack of better words, we're going to need to learn 3 languages. English to speak to our community, learn Russian to speak to our Springfield officers on the radio, and then speak German to the county on their radio. So we have to be fluent in 3 languages and do it seamlessly. Do it while the house is on fire, during CPR instructions. That's room for inefficiency. That is my concern. They've also stated that they're planning on the new system, brand new system. The county's state-of-the-art equipment's been sitting in a hallway since 2019. We've been utilizing our system. The only thing we're missing is the CAD, and that's already been in an approved budget. And as far as the level of service, I would have to say we give a lot better service than what the national average is. Our community expects that. Our first responders expect that. and that's what we expect to give back. The other portion that concerns me is that in the city, we've got, 60,000 people roughly? And in the county population without the city is about 70,000. We as city dispatchers know our city. We know our streets. We know our people. We know our businesses. That's what we do. And the county does the same with their jurisdiction. Now we're going to have to double everything that we already know. And we can't pay attention to the details that we're currently paying attention to. I get a 911 call now and a woman's making a gurgling noise. I look at the number and I know she's in a nursing home here in the city of Springfield. She's a nonverbal female and she can't reach her nurse button. I know to automatically call that nursing center and tell them, hey, go check in room 311. That's what we do. We know our people, we know their issues, and we know how to help. You're gonna double down as far as how many people we're responsible for and how many businesses and how many streets. There's gonna be room for issues. Now I know that a lot of people have said, well, it's just dispatch. And it's about the service. It's not about the money. But if it is about the money, what is the dollar amount that the city will sell their control of their 911 dispatch center? What is the dollar amount that they're going to sell their control for their first responders' safety? I am not saying by any means that county would ever jeopardize any of our first responders. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying with all this going on, there's going to be room for error, and that's what we want to avoid.
Could you please wrap up?
Sure, I sure
Okay.
can, sir. In wrapping up, as of October 2019, the city contracted to the county stopped. It was done. An agreement cannot be made. So saying this has been going on for several years, discussions have been going on. However, both sides could not agree. We cannot agree in over 10 years, and now we can push it through in 6 months. I'd like to ask each commissioner do their own research, talk to other cities, with the combined dispatch center, with the county as the seat, not a cog. Talk to Paul Hick. No one has spoke to him about this issue. Find out his insight. Go ahead and do the research. Talk to the people involved. Even Sheriff Burchett said this is being forced on her. So what I'm asking is look at how the city and county work. Look at the prior relations. Look at what happened when Sheriff Gene Kelly was in-house. Our sheriff changes every 4 years. The person responsible for your dispatch is going to change possibly every 4 years. If this contract is not agreed on, I'm sure there will be others from the opposing side that will put a spin on the facts and try to provide bad press for the city. The city can survive bad press, but they can't survive bad decisions. Thank you for your time.
So this is 2 meetings in a row where I have made a mistake, which is to not tell people at the beginning that there's a 3-minute limit on what you're saying. I would have stretched that a little bit anyway in this case because of the nature of the thing. But for the rest of you, for the rest of evening, 3-minute limit is our standard operation here. So hopefully we can stay within that limit as much as possible. Anyone else want to speak to this matter? Okay, then let's move on to second readings.
Mayor,
Yes,
would there be any other comments from any of the other items on the first reading?
does anyone want to comment on any of the other things that were first readings? Apparently not.
Approving a development plan located at 3641 Middle Urbana Road to allow for the multifamily development of 94 residential units.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the audience? Well, let me start with the commission.
Stephen, let me get this off. Can you restate the, we're approving tonight a planned development that was required in the zoning classification that already exists, is that correct?
That's correct.
And in the classification of zoning that already exists, how many units per acre? How many acres are we talking about? Is it 15?
Yeah, the whole parcel is about
Okay.
15 acres.
How many units, just redundant, I'm just using this for clarification, please. How many units can a developer submit a plan for and be approved to do?
So typically in the RM 44 district, which this is in, you can have up to 44 units per acre.
Okay, and that times 15 is a lot. Thank you. And this developer is asking to put in 94.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's pretty much what I wanted to clarify, that we're not changing zoning here tonight. We're just approving a plan that was part of the development of Kingsgate, as far as just like the extension of Kingsgate Road. That's always been part of the plat, and they could have done that at any point in time. The only thing we're approving is, even though the developer is not going to be affiliated with Kingsgate, they're purchasing the property from Kingsgate, and they're going to develop 94 rental units. Is that correct?
Yeah, all that is correct.
Okay. So I want to make sure. Thank you.
I'm going to vote for this based on the fact that the development plan is in accordance with our codified ordinance section 1108-07B3. And the said plan meets the requirements of the subsection A through E. And I'm telling you, when I looked at the website, I had to read all of that. It's like, he meets all the standards. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone who wants to speak to this matter?
Yes, Mayor. I think some very important points have already been raised. We're talking about 94 units as opposed to several hundred. We're talking about high-end units. We are talking about, for the first time in a long time in our community, a problem has surfaced because we're building new houses. What a nice problem to have for Springfield, instead of tearing them down. We have been working for 2 to 3 years now, at least, on trying to bring more housing online in our city because the demand is here. We have, in fact, created community reinvestment areas on the south side of town so we could stimulate purchase and the remodeling of homes south side of our city. Virtually everything south of Buck Creek is in a community redevelopment area where you can benefit from tax break, from abatement, if you in fact buy, build, or remodel in that area. But that need is still, the supply is still inadequate. We need more housing, as been demonstrated by the success of the townhouses downtown, by the success of the development on the east side of our community. We need people. People bring services. People demand services. That's good for our community. The other issue I heard was one of safety, of traffic. What I find interesting is this appears to me, as I thought about it, to be a self-imposed problem. Nobody is driving through Kingsgate now to get between Durr Road and Middle Urbana because the road doesn't exist. And yet, we heard that there were a lot of speeders there. So I'm left to conclude that the speeders must be the residents of that area. And I don't think that's a development problem. It may be a problem for our men and women in blue in terms of enforcing traffic laws, but that's not a development problem, it's a traffic problem. I've raised that issue because at our last meeting, I suggested that perhaps in addressing the traffic issue, the safety issue, perhaps the people ought to sit down together and see if in fact we come up with some way to address that problem. Mr. Heck, did we have any luck in having those kind of meetings? I know with COVID these things are difficult, but have we had any luck in getting the parties together?
We talked internally as staff, but we also reached out and met with the developers of Kingsgate to talk about the different traffic issues. I'll say this, I live in Kingsgate, so I'm familiar with it. Kingsgate was actually designed with the intent of slowing down traffic by the way the roads are shaped, and there's not a long stretches of straightaways in there. You are right, there are speeding, every neighborhood experiences speeding. I'm sure all of you, as everyone here, has experienced speeding in their neighborhoods. So I would not say that speeding is any different in Kingsgate than it is in any other neighborhood in the city. It is a self-imposed problem that is created by the residents themselves. And again, I can only speak on the side, on the west side of Kingsgate, the single family, not the condo side. I do not live or reside, or I think I've only traversed that road 3 or 4 times. But the speeding issues are self-imposed. So staff has looked at it. We met with the developer to talk about some ideas. We talked about different ideas or thoughts, but staff is not supportive of speed bumps. Speed bumps are not the answers. If you look at other communities across the country that have implemented that, a lot of them seek to remove those because they create larger issues, maintenance issues, but also the sounds in the residential neighborhood of speed bumps. If you've heard cars going over speed bumps and that bump, that then you create sound issues throughout neighborhoods as well. So we as staff do not support or believe that speed bumps are the solution or the answer to the problem.
Anything else? Yes.
Yeah, just from having a couple conversations, and also happened to drive by in Batavia, one of the redwood developments, and it's beautiful. It's in a beautiful area. And it's also my understanding that a developer that is investing already in our area finds that this group is a favorable group to have in your community to do their development in. And I also think in the housing study, we needed housing, different types of housing. Incentives to invest in older homes. We needed homes that are 150,000, 250,000, and we needed rental properties that were desirable for all levels of income. We have invested in senior housing. We've invested in income challenged housing. And then we're going to have a development, if this goes through, where we can have people that are retiring or live in Florida or want to be in Springfield but yet have their foot in another community, or even just want to start out in a place that they can afford like this, then this is an option for them. So I think this is a good plan for our community. I did want to make sure that we address some of the concerns of the Kingsgate, and I feel like the gentleman answered those the last time as far as how they'll be, what kind of neighbor they'll be to the community in their concern. I really appreciated that as well. So I just think, and we already brought up how many units can actually be applied for and have on this plot of land. So this is just the right type of development, and it's a window that's been opened in Springfield that I think we could jump through, in my opinion. So thank you.
I guess my reaction's been stated already, and my conclusion is this is as good as it's going to get, and therefore I'll be voting to support it. Anyone else? Anyone in the audience want to speak to this matter?
Could you hit the
Could
mic?
you hit your mic? Sorry.
Do I need to repeat that?
Please.
Debbie Stahl, 1850 Pinehurst Drive, Springfield, Ohio, 45502. At the last meeting, Mr. Estrop, you did request that we have some series of meetings. I thought the residents were going to be included in that. I did speak with Jill last Monday to see if anything was, scheduled. She told me at that time nothing was scheduled. I did leave a message with her Friday. She got back with me this morning saying that the meeting was going to be tonight, but there was not any individual meetings that she knew of. So to my knowledge, there were no residents that were included or invited to these meetings, and I'd just like to know, is there a reason why?
And I can answer that again. Staff met with or requested to meet with the developer to talk through options or ideas as it relates to speed control, speed management through the development. We talked through different options, different ideas. Again, frankly, Kingsgate is built in such a manner that it was designed to detract from speeding. It's not an easy cut through, so we think of people traversing through Kingsgate to avoid, more inefficient road systems. You have 334 just to the north of this that was rebuilt, reconstructed. You have Villa Road, which are all straight shots, whereas through the Kingsgate neighborhood and development, it is not a straight shot. It's roads that bend, curve. It was designed around the traffic calming circles that are placed throughout. You see the map on the screen with more options for traffic calming. So it was designed as a development and actually platted. So this road connection has been platted for a number of years to show that it was going to connect at some point in time. And it was designed to accommodate so that it would not create just a straight cut through between residential neighborhoods. So,
We did bring up a couple issues 2 weeks ago. Number one, the doctor's office, when you're going to Middle Urbana Road from the condos, you cannot see cars coming in and out, or they cannot see us going in and out. That's something that we would have liked to, have a say-so in. What's going to be done about that?
is that the vet office or the
No,
dentist office?
and I
If,
think
if
Helmuth.
there are line of sight issues,
That is
there
correct.
is code, we can have code enforcement, and I'll work with Steve Thompson to look at those line of sight issues that exist. If it's, is it overgrowth? Is it?
It is.
No.
Actually, last year I called, I can't remember who, they did cut down some of the bushes, but not all of them, so you still, there's a blind.
Okay.
There's a blind spot that
We
needs
will
to
look
be addressed.
specifically into that and get
The
them.
other issue is, as I stated, there are a lot of walkers, a lot of bikers, a lot of children in that area. Are there gonna be sidewalks put in?
For the new connection in Kingsgate, yes. Is that what you're talking about,
No,
or
I'm
on the
talking
condo
about
side?
just the area on the condo section.
I do not believe so. The developer did not have that platted as that manner, but the developer could speak to that.
Okay, he said 2 weeks ago
Yeah.
that was not his issue. That was a city street. But again, my concern is a safety issue. People walking, kids riding their bicycles, and we don't have sidewalks there. So I thought, again, we were going to have meetings where those things could be discussed with the city. Is there gonna be a sidewalk? Is there not?
Yeah, when the condos, that property was platted, condo developments do not require that within the public right-of-way, whereas on a single-family residential, it does by our subdivision regs. So the developer would not have been required to put sidewalks in, and again, that plat was done kind of all together as one plat. So the intent of the developer would not to be put sidewalks in, and he would not be required to do so.
So as of right now, there is no plan to put sidewalks?
No, there would be no plan.
Those drives are about a car length anyways.
I'm sorry?
The drives on those condo sides are about a car length and a couple feet. So to put sidewalks there would go way too close to the house anyway. Just
Well,
couldn't
no,
probably do.
we have a walking trail
Mhm.
now, which what I thought would happen would be that would be taken away and a sidewalk would be put there, is what I thought would happen.
I'm lost. Are we talking about this project, or are we talking about elsewhere?
She lives on the
I live
condo
on the
side of
condo
the
side.
development.
Other
Okay,
side of
So
the
on the
condo side
east.
on Kingsgate.
all right,
There's two Kingsgate roads that just don't connect currently.
okay. Okay,
Mr. Mayor, if I could say something if I remember for the meeting the last time, and I was paying a lot of attention, it seemed like it boiled down, the entire concern of the room was the amount of cars driving and the speed of people coming through and that connection happening. And that really, I don't remember, after Redwood made their presentation, talked about the kind of condos, the rent, things like, or the kind of apartments and the rent, I really didn't hear much more genuine concern other than the connection of those roads and the speed in which is already there in Kingsgate and going through. Am I wrong about that? I didn't remember a list of a whole lot of more concern that had a lot of weight. You can correct me. I just want to. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which-
and I missed
which-
that, and we
which
can
needs
deal
to be
through
addressed
that
for
through a
sure.
code enforcement issue.
Now, the doctor's offices aren't a part of this project. That's a separate problem, right?
But what I did hear her say is you need to be able to see better coming out of that drive if there's going to be more traffic, and that's legit, for sure. It's all legit, but that's a concern.
Name and address for the record, please.
Jan Conway from the the Meadows at Kingsgate as well, 1830 Pinehurst.
Okay.
And part of the issue also is from Middle Urbana to the new connection is a straight shot. It is a straight shot from each side of the two condo developments. Ours are single-family units. The other side are duplexes. And so that's part of the concern with speed, because when you connect, the connection is not an issue, but when they connect, we have a straight shot. And I mean, speed has become an issue just from people moving in and out of the condo development.
Okay, I'm lost because there's no condos here, right?
No, there are condos
No,
to
but
the east.
It's bringing together the units, and it's not part of the proposal, but it affects our condo development.
So we've got other problems, is what you're saying.
Yes,
Got it.
So there's a roundabout at Kingsgate, right at Kingsgate and Gulfview, right? Kingsgate Road and Gulfview. There's a
yes,
roundabout.
there's
That's a
one
slow point.
roundabout if people will
From
use
the
it
roundabout
correctly.
to the proposed connection, that's pretty straight until it starts curving into the new
Right.
part.
It
Yeah, I
is
can see
straight.
that.
Here's a better depiction of that right here. So
I'm
here's
looking
the
at it on my
Kingsgate.
map, but yeah.
Yeah, Kingsgate, here's Gulfview, where we talked about the traffic calming circle, and there's a slight bend, but it is a more straight shot.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
definitely more.
it would bend, there would be a traffic calming circle here,
Okay,
as
There is
proposed
gonna
by
be
the
a second?
development.
There will be a second circle there then?
Yes, and then it'll wrap around, you'll have that entrance there, that will head, north towards the Redwood development, and then it would kind of loop back again, kind of on a curve, and join in with the current, where Kingsgate, the single-family development ends, which has a traffic calming circle as well. And then there's another, kind of traffic calming feature, it's not a circle, here in Kingsgate, and then down at Campbell and Kingsgate is another traffic calming circle. So it, from Durr to Middle Urbana, it would not be a straight shot. It's not going to be a more efficient or quicker route. You're probably more concerned of Kingsgate residents that maybe see this as an opportunity to get out to Middle
oh,
Urbana
sure.
from the residential, as opposed to going out to Durr and going up. So
Could I
I mean,
suggest,
both issues, but
could
yeah.
could I suggest that staff have that conversation with you folks? Okay? Anybody else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop, Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 9.805 acres at 4401 South Charleston Pike, Springfield, Ohio, from Springfield Township CP Champions Park District to City CH1 Highway Commercial District.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Confirming purchases and the obtaining of services for the city and providing for payments therefor, and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Providing for supplemental appropriations within various funds and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Wait, did you have a comment? Please.
Could you turn on your mic, please?
I'd like to know how much money's in these various funds and where's it going?
There are three different, these are housekeeping as we head into the last part of our year, but there are three different funds that are being affected by these supplemental appropriations. The airport fund, there's $28,000 that we are adding to that for some potential projects that we're going to be doing at the airport. Then in the stormwater fund, we have some additional money put in there, $2,000 for leaf pickup and some additional engineering expenses. And then we are also moving some money into capital projects for the bus company so we can hopefully enhance the transit system in the city.
How much you give them?
That move is, we're moving some federal dollars there and it's $125,000.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing an increase in the cost associated with the purchase of 4 light transit narrow-body vehicles for an amount not to exceed $4,756, for a total amount not to exceed $342,844 from Tesco through the Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 5513.01B of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the increase of a purchase order in an amount not to exceed $7,357.60 for a total cost not to exceed $75,528.85 for the purchase of 85 additional G Suite business licenses and support from Onyx Networking Corp. And declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 2 to the contract for the purchase of water meter equipment with Everett J. Prescott Incorporated to increase the contract amount by $200,000 for a total amount not to exceed $930,784.65 and declaring an emergency therein.
So,
Move to adopt.
second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, I was wondering if we could explain, have an explanation of this $200,000 increase.
Yes, I'll have Chris Moore called up, and he can answer that question.
Yes, Commissioners, so this addition accounts for a couple different things. One, as we head into winter, we need to make sure we have access to water meters so that when meters freeze and break, which they do in the winter, that we're able to replace them. One of the positives out of this is when we have new housing come to the community, we sell water meters to those folks, and we need to be able to make sure that we have replenished that stock. And then early on during the pandemic, we had some meters that we didn't go in folks' houses to repair, and now we have worked out proper protocols to get in houses and make those necessary repairs, and this will help get us out of that backlog also.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Mhm.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill? Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a grant contract with the State of Ohio Department of Transportation to accept funds in the amount of $25,579 from the Ohio Elderly and Disabled Transit Fare Assistance Program. Authorizing the city manager and director of finance to perform all acts and execute all documents considered necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said contract, to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements, and to provide assurances and additional information as required by the Ohio Department of Transportation and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, this question is for our finance director. What is the fee for anybody that's disabled and elderly, and can they still get a discount card at the bus company?
Yes, Commissioner. Be happy to answer that question. This legislation in front of you tonight helps defray the cost of that, and you're correct that people who are elderly and disabled have an opportunity to ride at a reduced fare on our city transit system. It's half fare, so it's 50 cents as opposed to $1. You have to fill out an application, which you can find on our website, or they have them available in hard copy over at Bus Center on Jefferson. You have to be over 65, have a Medicare, red, white, and blue Medicare card, or a physician's certified disability. And again, you could contact GAT at 937-328-7228.
Could you repeat that number again?
Yeah.
937-328-7228.
Thank you. So we hope our citizens that are disabled and handicapped will consider, and elderly, consider going to the bus company or downloading our application, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 1 to the contract between the city and the Shelley Company for the 2020 PI paving project to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $14,444.96 for a total amount not to exceed $1,946,902.89, and authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 1 and declaring an emergency therein.
So
To
moved.
adopt. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience?
I was again wondering if somebody might explain the change order, please.
Yes, Commission, this is our neighborhood street program for 2020. And specifically, this was a change in the method of how we were paving Euclid. Originally, we were planning to do a shave and pave, as we call it. And once out there, it was determined that we needed to do a pulverization technique for the roadway that would be better and last longer. And so we went with that approach. So this really is ultimately an up and down, kind of removing out the pieces of the shave and pave, but then adding in the pulverization, which resulted in the $14,000 increase.
Very good. Did we have problems with the gas lines on Euclid, or like we
No,
did?
I do not believe so.
Not in that. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Finding the necessity and declaring the intent to appropriate interest in real property in connection with providing easements necessary for the public purpose of the installation of sidewalk where there currently is none on Home Road, from 1629 Home Road to Belmont Avenue, and on North Limestone Street from Julia Turner Way to Redcoat Drive, and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Finding the necessity and declaring the intent to appropriate interest in real property in connection with providing easements necessary for the public purpose of constructing, reconstructing, operating, and maintaining water infrastructure, and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Approving the 2021 calendar of commission meetings to be held on Tuesdays in the City Forum, with the commission retreat scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday, March 9th and 10th, location to be determined, and budget meetings scheduled for Monday and Tuesday, November 15th and 16th in the Forum Conference Room.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Are there other items to come before us from commissioners?
Just want to remind folks that tomorrow is election 2020, and if you still have that ballot on your kitchen table, you can fill it out and take it directly to the Board of Elections at 3130 East Main Street. So please fill those out and get them in. And you can turn them in, I think, between 6:30 and 7:30 tomorrow. Thank you.
I would like to make one announcement and then my usual three questions. We heard Charlie Patterson, the director of the Clark County Combined Health District, speak today. And Commissioner Patterson reminded all of us that if you haven't had the opportunity to get a flu shot, please do that. Now, the worst of all possible health scenarios right now is you catch the flu and COVID at the same time, and that is possible. You don't want to catch the flu. There is a vaccine for it, and we want to encourage everyone. You can get them at through your doctor, your regular doctor. You can get them at some pharmacies and through the Clark County Combined Health District. All of those places are offering flu shots, and we want to encourage you and all of the people of Springfield to take advantage of this service. COVID's bad enough. You don't need flu on top of it. It just adds to the problems and adds to the misery and lengthens recovery time and the severity of the disease. I also wanted to ask how we were doing on COVID as usual, Bryan, and how we're doing on South End, particularly the Kroger store, and then Mark, how we're doing financially.
Yes, so I'll start with your first question. So we have, just as our community has seen a number of cases rise, we do have a number of increase in the rise of either COVID positive or quarantine due to exposure of other COVID patients within our organization. And this has been broad-reaching, not just one department's impacted. It's really across the board of our organization, not at a level yet that has impacted the level of service or our ability to provide the services to our community, but just as our community is seeing a rise in cases, we have seen a rise in those impacted within our organization. So for those that have been impacted, we certainly, our thoughts and prayers are with them for a full recovery, and for, if it was related to exposure of a loved one or so forth, the same, that we hope that a quick recovery is made by all of those impacted and affected. As far as it relates to the development on the south side, your second question on Kroger, we had a positive meeting today with Larry Dillon, who we have entered into a letter of intent with on redevelopment of the former Kroger location there on South Limestone. We're moving forward with preliminary budget and cost estimates for what the reconstruction of that facility would look like and take to bring it up to a level to be attractive for a final end user, with really a multi-tenant approach to the facility, one being an anchor grocer, but then some other space available for things like a food hall and other aspects that can serve the community, specifically there, the adjoining neighbors. One positive from this past week was the demolition of the former property at 1841 Clifton. That was the former auction house. As always, we try to take advantage, and I know our fire teams were able to take advantage of that structure and do some training, which was great. And then Tony Smith came in last week and demolished the property, and so that light has been removed, which will help in the overall redevelopment of the Kroger property. So we were excited to see that come to fruition. But I feel like we're moving in a good path, and hopefully we'll see some positive redevelopment of the structure there here in the very near future.
Super, thank you.
On the financial front, pretty much broken record at this. Cash balances are holding steady.
That's okay.
That's right.
At this point.
We've reached a point where we're only down 1% in income tax collections with net profit and withholding from where we were at the same point in 2000. I feel very pleased, and we should all feel blessed that that's the point.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Again, that's very different than most cities in Ohio, so we're lucky. Anything else from Commission? Okay, audience, name and address for the record, and 3-minute limit.
He's got his.
Hey, Don, could you hit your microphone button real quick?
Okay. You want me to repeat my name and address again?
No, we got it.
I got it.
Don Chris, 1026 Armsgate Road, Springfield, Ohio, 45503. I just wanted to find out what the status was on the presentation I made last week, if any, and if anyone can give me an update as to when there will be something addressed on it.
I can answer that, Commission. So Dom's referring to the drainage ditch that runs be in the northeast corner of the development there. Staff is reviewing it. I will say again, when the stormwater fee was put into place, the idea was to the maintenance of the overall system, which includes roadways, looking at the treatment plant itself and the high rate treatment facility that had to be added. And so our stormwater was not equipped or set up for ditch maintenance of individual properties. So most likely the result will be that we would recommend not to provide any financial assistance. There's neighbors just to the north of this that have done the own work in their own properties, their own residential properties, actually in the Kingsgate development. And so, but we're going to look at it. One of the issues that was brought up related to this development was also along Durr Road, as it relates to the county engineers project that happened a few years ago. And I do, in speaking with Mr. Chris, the county engineer has reached out and they're looking at what they could do in terms of the area where it's draining off of Durr Road specifically. But I hope, Mr. Chris, that I would have an answer to you by the end of this week.
If I could get your phone number, I would like to arrange to come out and take a look at that. I'm sorry, I just can't place it. But at the end of the meeting, Mr. Crisp, if you can give me your phone number,
okay.
I'd like to make arrangements to come out and see it or through the staff. I just can't picture it, and I want to try to get a grasp of what we're talking about.
Don, are they still working on it as we speak? Yeah, that'll be a good time.
Because it was shut down about a week and a half.
Anyone else? Name, address for the record.
Name and address for the record is 5 David Sanford, 528 Yellow Spring Street. Now I came down here last week, and I brought up, and I'd like a little extra time, like to give someone else to take and finish this up quick, because I'm going to do it as quick as possible. I might need a little more than 3 minutes. Anyhow, I came down here last week, and I brought up where he blacktopped over the sewer line. Well, I never got a chance to complete what went on in the deal. Bryan Hess came out there in the beginning when it first started, and it was said that in the event that he covered that sewer line up, it had to be responsible for opening up the blacktop. Well, 2 or 3 weeks later, I called to find out what was going on. Now, I don't know what happened in between the first conversation we had and the conversation we had 3 weeks later. When I asked Bryan the next time, he said no, he wasn't going to do it. Now, that sewer line is connected to your sewer line. Now, it's not an argument about that man covering it up, because that's his property. But I'm the one that's got the right of way through there. And if it had been changed and Bryan couldn't have did anything about it, and it was a reason, I should have been told. That's the reason why I said I must have been black or something, why no one said nothing. If you are going to tell me, in any sense, that something is not going to be so, then come back when I asked you about it. It's no. Surely, if you told me how it was going to be in the beginning, you'd call me and tell me, wouldn't you? That's only common sense. No one did anything. So I want to know from the commission and Bryan in writing, what was the change? What happened in writing that it wasn't going to be done? Now, I'm going to take it to court, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. Now, secondly, I bring up the health department in Springfield got some people in some campers on the outskirts of town, and they're feeding them. I don't understand that either, because they got COBRA. I don't know how this happened or how it come about, but I'm pretty sure the health department, Bryan, and all of them know. But I never heard nothing. I had never heard anything about it, period. This thing is going around here, doing things, no one knows about it, doesn't even make sense, because someone always finds out about it anyway. So I'd like to know from this commission, Bryan, and the health department, just what are they doing? Putting people out there at COBRA.
David, could you repeat yourself? Because I couldn't understand what you were saying they
Well,
were doing.
okay, I'm going to repeat it clearly. I came to find out that the health department had some individuals staying in campers on the outskirts of town that had COBRA. And they were buying food and things for them. And I have no idea what it is, but if they're buying food and stuff for people that has the COBRA out there, I'd like to know, because I ain't seen nobody buy no food for nobody in town. And if it's something special, we all should know about it anyway. And that's what I'm saying. You understand each other, one?
Got it.
I'd like an answer in writing from Bryan and this commission, what's going on in the health department. Thank you.
David. Okay.
Commissioner, I have no issue providing that response in writing. I do want, just so everybody knows, so the second item as it relates to the health department, the city did work with the health department at the time of COVID when it first came. They were limited on where hotel rooms and so forth, where they could place people for quarantine. One of the options the health departments across the state of Ohio had were to place them in campers, pretty much self-sufficient campers, fifth wheel campers. These are located out at the Downs Army Reserve Center. I believe there's 4 or 5 of them. Does not mean that they're COVID positive patients. It could be somebody that is suspected of COVID, or somebody that has a family member that may be COVID positive and there's no other way for them or place for them to go. So the health department did make them available. The health department is using funding that they are provided to be able to provide that service to residents of the community. As far as the blacktop over a sewer line issue, I just want to say, so this is a private property matter. When I met with Mr. Sanford, I came out there immediately when he began trying to pave. The gas station tried to pave over that. Kurt Tyson from engineering was out there as well, and we were able to stop them because he did not have a proper permit to put in or extend his parking lot permit. I had not seen the deed that Mr. Sanford has as it relates to the easement. He does have an easement for his sewer lateral through the gas station's property. Most easements will have some sort of language in there about if there is a change or alteration on the property, that who is responsible ultimately for repair replacement. Without seeing that easement, that was the answer I gave. I did see the easement, and his easement language is very vague. It basically states that he is allowed to have his sewer lateral through that property. That's all it states. Steve Thompson from our office and myself had told David as soon as we got a parking lot permit application in hand, we would make that available to Mr. Sanford. We held up to that end of the bargain as well and provided that and called him when that became available. So, I take great offense when it said, he's bringing race into it. That is offensive. Nothing related to race in the decision, and we shared information with Mr. Sanford from the very beginning. So I do want to clear that piece up. But I will provide that in writing to Mr. Sanford.
Okay.
All right, thank you, that's what I want.
Anybody else? Anybody like to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes, meeting is adjourned.